If you're looking for a place where you can afford to live comfortably, where having safety isn't a luxury, and where if you can dream it, you can be it, this video is for you. You may have heard whispers about a smaller Midwest city, hidden gem, but let us confirm that Kansas City is it. Hey, I'm Justin Barrett, the Plains Paris real estate team right here in Kansas City. If you're even thinking of moving to the Midwest and you're considering Kansas City, go ahead, hit that button, ring that bell. That way you're notified every time one of these new videos comes out. We get calls all the time from people just like you wanting to escape their crazy, dangerous, and overpriced cities, and they're wanting to come to the good life here in the Midwest. We absolutely love it. So if you're even thinking of coming our way, go ahead, reach out, give us a call, text, and email. Whatever's best for you. We are here to make that transition to Kansas City just as smooth as possible. And just remember, when it comes to moving to Kansas City, you're in charge. All you have to do is point the direction. We'll guide you there. Now, one of the most common questions we get is Kansas City safe? So Kansas City actually made the top 10 most dangerous cities in the entire country report by the FBI a few years ago. And yes, it's true that Kansas City has pockets that are very dangerous. In fact, Kansas City only makes up about 800 square miles of the entire 8,500 square miles that make up the Kansas City metro. So if you're talking to somebody about Kansas City, they're not talking about that pocket. They're talking about where they live, which is generally other parts of the city. So here is Neighborhood Scout, and they're using Kansas City crime statistics to determine which areas are dangerous. Now, I live up here in the Staley area. You can see that they've ranked that as the number 2 safest area of the city. Thousand Oaks over here is number 1. Of course, this map does not include anything in Johnson County. It doesn't include Gladstone, doesn't include Liberty, and that's because those police departments don't report. So we're only looking at the data that's readily available. Let's look a little bit at it though. So of course you have, this is where the airport's at. I have no idea why there would be crime there, but I guess there's hotels. But generally, I live in the Northland. I don't have any real problems up here. And you know that generally the lower the price point the house, the more active it's going to be for tenants and renters and so forth. And it just so happens to be that's generally where the crime's at. So sometimes the crime map's a good way of looking at a city. It shows you where the more expensive, affluent areas and where the most affordable homes are as well. If we look down in here into the city, you're gonna see that the city is divided kind of east and west, and there's a lot of controversy about that. But by and large, this area is improving significantly, and a lot of development is moving from west to east. Now, when we look at the map here of the most dangerous parts of the city, to be honest, most of these areas do not have amenities that I regularly visit or people that I know regularly visit. So it's not that hard to avoid these areas because you're probably not going down to that area to have dinner or going down there to have drinks. But just like all cities, of course there's crime, and of course there's going to be pockets that are that way. But however, in Kansas City, I do find that it's generally easy to avoid, and even in those areas when I am there, I've never had a problem. I think it's easy to say that generally if you're up to no good, you'll find no good, and those are the areas where you can find it. But if you're keeping to yourself, I personally don't know anybody that's had any violent experiences or anything in my entire 40 years of living here. Now, one tip that I have when I'm visiting a new city, and I learned this as an appraiser when I was younger, exploring our own city, and keep in mind, 20 years ago, our city was vastly different than it is today. But when I was in an area and it ended up being a dangerous area or a less than a favorable area, I would look at roofs. So generally, if I saw an entire neighborhood where the roofs weren't maintained, that tells me that it's generally, tenant occupied, that there's, landlords that are choosing not to maintain their buildings. And those were the signs that I had. Now, a lot of the buildings that you'll see in areas, they're vinyl wrapped houses. It's hard to tell how they're maintained on the inside, but roofs really tell that story. So if you're on vacation and you pull off into a neighborhood, you're not sure if it's a good area or not, you're wanting to check your map, look at the roofs, and that's going to tell you a lot. Now, most of the downtown area, I would say, is safe to walk. We'll commonly get a hotel down there instead of driving, and we'll hop around bars, have dinner, and so forth. And I'll walk all night till 3 or 4 in the morning. I've, again, never had a problem down there. It's like most cities, but again, I've never had a problem myself, nor do I know anybody who's been mugged or, any of those stories. Now, I hear other people coming from other cities and being mugged or held up is, more common. But again, in Kansas City, I don't know anybody personally who's been mugged or robbed, especially out and about on the street. In short, Kansas City to me is a very safe city to live. The people that we have that have moved to the city, they've been very happy with that choice. And when I reach back out to them, we talk to them, a year, 2 years later, they're still telling me stories about how dangerous it was to live where they were at, how they were robbed, those types of stories. And I've never heard of anybody in our city telling me the same stories. So if safety is a concern for you, I'd say Kansas City is a pretty safe choice. Now, one of the most common questions we get, especially from somebody moving from a larger city who's used to having a subway or used to having a lot of public transportation and using a car is difficult, they want to know how good is the public transportation in Kansas City. Well, it's not great. I'd be lying to you if I told you that there wasn't any public transportation, but by and large, people that live here don't think about public transportation. But again, it does exist. So we're going to go ahead and talk about that, but keep in mind, having a car in Kansas City is really the best way to get around. Here's the Kansas City Metro bus lines. It's the Ride KC system. And you'll see that, again, most of it's going to be down that downtown corridor. You can see, again, the Kansas City map here is this area. Now, Kansas City buses do go outside of the city, but most of it's going to serve that 850 square miles of Kansas City and really more like the 500 square miles or even less south of the river. And again, Kansas City is split by the Missouri River here, north of the river and south of the river. So most of the south of the river is going to have better transit line, especially if you're in the more urban part of the city. But if you're going to live in the suburbs, you can see here, yes, they have a bus line, but if you were out in Raytown, you're still going to be doing quite a bit of a walk or driving a car to some place to be able to ride that bus in. Now, and I live up here in the Northland, and again, yes, we have them. I'm up here in this area here. I would be driving a car, parking in a parking lot, hopping on a bus, and taking that bus downtown. It'd be probably twice as long of a ride to work than it would be if I just drove myself. So you'll find that most people are going to choose, if they have the option of owning a car, to drive. Now, in Kansas City, owning a car is not as expensive as it is in other cities. I have friends that live in Philadelphia, and just parking a car is so expensive that and they can't hardly use it. It really just doesn't make sense to have a car. In Kansas City, parking's pretty common. You can go downtown, even on like a big event when there's a concert or a game, you're gonna be able to find parking. It might be $15 or $20 to park, but I was in Chicago not long ago and DC not long ago, and it was $80 to park, overnight down there. So Kansas City's not going to be like that. All the hotels generally are going to come with parking. Again, other larger cities, you're paying for parking on top of your room. Kansas City's not going to generally be like that unless you're in the hottest part of downtown where there isn't parking but 3 blocks away. But again, 3 blocks of a walk and you're going to find parking. Now, Kansas City does have a streetcar, but it currently only goes from the River Market down to Union Station. There are plans over the next few years to extend that quite a bit further south, and they are talking about wanting to carry it up into the Northland. But right now, it is basically a tourist line. Now, Kansas City is not very much of a tourist town, but this is as touristy as we get. So it's going to go from the River Market down to Union Station. You'll be able to go down, and have drinks and dinner down in Power and Light, go to a concert, visit the Kauffman Center, Crossroads District's going to be the Arts District and so forth. So there's a lot of stops along the way, but again, those are not generally where most people are living, and they're not using that for transportation to work. That's just kind of how you hop around once you get downtown. So in short, if you're moving to Kansas City, you kind of have to unlearn the idea that you need public transport to get around. You have to unlearn that traveling from one part of the city to another part of a city can be difficult and you never know what traffic's going to do, because in Kansas City, you can generally travel at 1 mile a minute. So you're going to get on the highway, you're going to be running 60 miles an hour. Now, one other thing about owning a car, we mentioned the parking cost earlier, but generally you're not paying for parking in Kansas City anyways. But one of the biggest advantages to owning a car here is that gas is fairly affordable. So it's going to be, right now it's around $3.15 a gallon, while it's twice that in California. And then insurance is actually cheaper. So there's a couple reasons for that. In Kansas City, most people are going to be parking their car in a garage, whereas other larger cities, you're doing off-street parking where it's a more dense area. It's higher probability that your car gets broke into or stolen. Now, if you live in one of those areas in the downtown area, let's say, where they don't have garages because the houses were built before the automobile, scale, you will see that insurance is going to be a little higher in those areas because, again, your car is outdoors. It's a little easier for it to be stolen and broken into. So it is rated up. But most people are going to live in a house that has a garage. And one of the other cool things to know about a city that's based on highways is accidents are actually less likely to happen on a highway. I remember when I was a kid, I was terrified to get on the highway because we were moving at a faster rate of speed. But keep in mind, everybody's moving in the same direction, and our city generally doesn't have a bunch of backed up traffic. Now, when you're down in town, that's where the T-bones come from. That's where you're getting rear-ended. And if you go to a city like Philadelphia and you just notice how often the bumpers are scuffed up because of all the parallel parking, you're not going to see that on cars in Kansas City because we have a lot of space and we don't have to run into each other. Now, when somebody's moving to Kansas City, it's not uncommon that they're moving here for a job, but their partner is not moving with a job. So they're going to be job hunting when they get here. So finding out about the job market and its stability is pretty important to most people. So Kansas City has an incredibly stable job market, and that's why you do not see the volatility and fluctuations in our economy that you'll see on coasts, especially in areas where people are moving and buying second homes, and there's an influx of people at different times when rates are really good and they want to buy a second home. But Kansas City, this is where people actually live. It's not a tourist town. So a lot more stable area. Now, transportation and logistics, warehousing, that type of stuff is going to be the number one industry in Kansas City. We actually have the most amount of warehouses in Clay County in the Northland per capita or whatever, most warehouse space per capita in the entire country, because Kansas City makes a great logistical location for transportation, especially shipping of goods. We have tons of rail, we have lots of highways, so all of that comes here, we store it, and we ship it out. Now, if you look at the city map here, I'm gonna show you the major highways, and maybe it'll make a little more sense to you. So we have I-49 coming from south to north, we have 35 coming from south to north, we have I-70 running east to west. Those are our main interstates. Now, if you look in here, there's going to be a loop called 435, and it runs right around here, and it connects all those highways together. That allows us to really get around the city really well, but it also attracts transportation and delivering of goods and storage of goods. So there's lots of jobs that are not only driving trucks and driving trains, and that type of stuff, but all of the companies that need transportation, they see Kansas City as a great opportunity and an affordable place to run a company. So there's lots of that stuff. Healthcare and biotech is going to be really common here too. So pharma companies, you're going to see like Bayer has a factory here, Cerner and Oracle, which we'll talk about them again in a little bit in the tech area. There's going to be a lot of healthcare with the University of Kansas is here, Children's Mercy Hospital, and there's a number of other large hospitals here as well. Plus, again, it's an affordable place for science and engineering and research. So you'll find a lot of medical research here in the area as well. Now, manufacturing, we don't want to overlook that. Again, if you're going to make a lot of cars, you need to be able to ship a lot of cars. So of course, we have a great manufacturing sector in our city, but namely, I'm going to mention Ford. We have the Ford Motor Company plant here, where we make the most popular truck in the entire country, the Ford F-150. They've been doing that for 70 years, and I don't expect that job to be going anywhere anytime soon. So now tech and IT are also huge here. When Google first came up with Google Fiber, we were the very first city to actually get that. So that means that at that time, a lot of tech companies started looking at Kansas City, and we got the nickname the Silicon Prairie. Now, we're not going to be like San Francisco where they've got all these crazy startups and companies like Facebook and so forth, but we do have a lot of IT-based companies that are here. So we've got Cerner and Oracle, when they make a lot of software and a lot of products that help manage pharmacies and hospitals and so forth. And we've got Garmin, we've got H&R Block, we've got T-Mobile, and then there's also a lot of call centers. Now, I've seen the call centers kind of dwindle a little bit as the markets have changed, but there are still a lot of call center jobs here. It's an affordable place where large corporations can look and find an affordable workforce and a very stable economy. Same reasons, again, that people are looking to move to Kansas City, those large corporations are seeing the exact same thing. Now, another great sector is going to to be insurance, like Farmers out in Olathe. They have a large campus, and you'll also see there's a campus for American Family. It's not uncommon to meet somebody here though. They're going to say they work at Cerner, Oracle now, they work for Farmers, they work for Ford, those types of things. Now, Hallmark Cards is also based out of Kansas City, and you will see quite a few people have long careers at Hallmark Cards. Their parents worked there, they work there. And then the federal building is located downtown. So we've got a federal courthouse, we got a federal building, the reserve, and you will find that a lot of people, again, have very long careers with the federal government here in Kansas City. And all of those industries, those are industries that are always needed. So even when the economy kind of turns sour, those jobs don't really disappear, and that is why you do not see that volatility and that turbulence in our real estate markets, while you will see it in areas that do not have that type of industry. Now, one of the preconceived notions about moving to Kansas City is that Kansas City is a small Midwest city that splits two flyover states. But what's funny is when people come and visit here, they are so surprised to find out that there's so much to do. One of my favorite things about living in Kansas City is that Kansas City is not a tourist town. That means when they make a new district or they're redeveloping an area, they're not doing it for tourism, they're doing it for us. There are 2.2 million people that live in the Kansas City metro. And it's not that people don't go out and do anything, it's that there's so much to do. When you go out, you don't see a ton of people congregated in one area. Now, some of the most popular areas in the city are going to be the Power and Light District first. Now, you got to understand the Power and Light District was one of the first major investments to the downtown. So that's very much a hub. But then if you go and look around that, it's brought a lot of traffic in and it keeps expanding around. So just south of there, you're going to find the Crossroads District. Nearby, you're going to find the Plaza and Westport, and there's a ton more development that is slated. Just keep in mind, there is so much in the city to do that nothing's ever really crowded, and you'll never be bored with options. And again, when I go to most cities and I talk to somebody from, Las Vegas or Los Angeles or whatever, and I talk about how excited I was to visit, a certain area, they'll always tell me, yeah, we don't ever go down there. That's not our area. And you're just not going to find that same language here in Kansas City because everything here is really made for us. Now, of course, when you're moving to a city, you got to find a place to live. So the cost of housing is going to have an incredible impact on the cost of living in a city. So what I wanted to show you real quick is what you get for your money in Kansas City. So in cities like Los Angeles and Denver, finding anything under the $400,000 range that's move-in ready is almost impossible, especially if you're trying to find a home in a safe area. So I'm going to show you, number one, here's our map. Shows you a little bit of where you can get houses for for that money. Again, I'm only running a search here for 350 to 400,000. If you're seeing pockets that are blank, that's probably because the homes are actually less than the 350 price point. So we're looking at where most people that are moving to the city are shopping. So they're shopping in that 350 to 450 range, and it's not uncommon that they're quite a bit higher than that. And these are also all 4-bedroom, 2-bath homes. So you can see, like, here's a listing we have right now. Pull it up here. This is a 4-bedroom, 3-car garage house, about 2,100 square feet, and right next to the hospital. Flip through here a little bit. Move-in ready, freshly painted, rec room, big backyard, across the street from a park. That's going to be in the below 400 range. Let's back on out again. Go over here. This is a real popular area. You can get a brand new house for about $415,000, 4 bedrooms, 3 baths, 2,100 square feet, true ranch, real popular for somebody downsizing. Those plans are perfect for anybody, honestly. We go out south. It just gives you an idea. I don't want to spend a bunch of time on this, but go out south to Overland Park. You generally get a little less for your money, but it's a very popular area. So we'll just grab, here's a 2-story for $365,000. You've got another 2-story for $389,000, 4-bedroom, 2.5 baths, 2,400 square feet. So a lot of great options for the money. And again, if you're looking at places where you're from, like Los Angeles or Denver, I mean, for $400,000, you're generally getting a cracker box And here you're getting what I would consider a luxury house in most cities. And those really are the medians here. What's really fun is when somebody, say, is retiring, or they're moving out here and their kids are already gone off at college. Well, they'll be moving out here and the kids will show up and I'll be out at the house and they're blown away with what their parents got. In fact, what they'll say is, what'd you have to pay to get this? You're like, $1 million, this $1.5 million, Dad. And he's like, $450,000. And their mind is blown. So that is why people are talking about Kansas City. And yes, they were moving to Dallas and Nashville before, but there's so much pressure there now that those prices are coming up. So now all the interest is coming to Kansas City. So it's a great opportunity for somebody to really get ahead of that curve and ride that equity wave that we expect to continue to grow. We're still experiencing the same thing everybody else is. There is not enough homes for all the people moving here, and we're building them as fast as we can, but it's going to take quite a while to catch up with demand. That is the recipe for a great investment. So if you're thinking about moving to Kansas City, you're not alone, and the sooner you do it, probably the better off you are. Now, the number one thing that we're asked about when it comes to Kansas City is, how expensive is it to live there? Most people moving here are excited to not be paying as much as they were paying where they're at, especially if they can bring their salary to the Midwest. So that's been very common the last few years as remote work has been allowed. Our internet's great here. In fact, Kansas City was rated the #1 place for remote workers in the entire country. A lot of that has to do with the ability of being spread out, having lots of options and places to go, not being too dense of an area, and that you could bring your salary with you and have low cost of living. So just to give you an idea of how far your dollar goes here in Kansas City, $5,300 is considered a comfortable living wage here. So if you're making $5,300 a month, that's comfortable. Now in Nashville, that's going to be $6,510. So $5,300 there, $6,500 in Nashville. So $5,300 in KC, $6,500 in Nashville. Now in Dallas, it's $6,300, Denver, $6,500, Los Angeles is $7,300, and San Francisco is $7,570 to have a similar life as you would have right here in Kansas City. So part of that is our housing is obviously a lot cheaper. We have lower insurance rates than other areas. We don't have the natural disasters. We don't have, that type of stuff that you're going to find on the West Coast or in Florida with hurricanes. And we have affordable gas. We have great groceries. Again, all of those, all that food, all that gas, it's coming through Kansas City. It doesn't cost us money to ship it. It's already coming here. We gain the benefit of being a transportation city. Then things like food, again, going out for dining and entertainment, those types of things are generally a lot cheaper. Again, I was just talking about in another video how going out here, $6 to $8 for a drink is going to be the norm. A fancier restaurant, with a drink mixologist, that's going to be, $14 a drink. But again, I've been out in LA, San Francisco, Orlando. Going out and having a drink that's less than $16 to $18 is almost impossible to find. Now, those are the top 5 questions we get for people just like you moving to the Kansas City area. And if there's anything you think that we skipped over or didn't answer clear enough, please put it down in the comments below and we'll make sure we get back to you on that. Now, if you're even thinking of moving to the Kansas City area, again, hit that button, ring that bell, and reach out to us immediately at 816-439-8705. We absolutely love helping people explore this city and get it right the first time. Make sure you check out our personality quiz. I know the city's really big, and when you look at it from a map, it's a little confusing, but we've done all that hard work for you, and we've built a personality quiz where you answer simply 11 questions, and we will be able to tell you what part of Kansas City matches your personality. Just remember, when it comes to moving to Kansas City, all you have to do is point the direction, and we'll guide you there.